My name is Richard Diggs. I'm here to talk about investing. I've been many things in my life. I've been a nerd, I've been an athlete, I've been a counselor, a mentor, and a teacher. But during my teenage years, I was called many other things. A thug, a threat, a statistic, a nothing. I adopted these names because of some decisions that I made during high school. The first came when my twin brother and I decided that we were going to transfer from Detroit's illustrious Cass Technical High School, a school that was considered by many to be the absolute best in Detroit. We wanted to transfer to our neighborhood high school, Edward Denby, a school that at the time was considered more infamous than illustrious. We wanted to play basketball at Denby, the people we'd known all our lives. The teachers and administrators at Cass couldn't understand why we wanted to transfer. Before we signed our papers, one of the teachers pulled my brother and I to the side, and he said, "Look at me. I went to Cass Tech. All of my friends that went here have a great life, and you guys are going to give that up. This decision could ruin your life." He meant well, but we took it as a challenge, and so we transferred anyway. My first few months at Denby, I didn't spend too much time talking to my new classmates, and my brother and I were pretty oblivious to the environment. But that all changed one day when a friend I had known for years stopped me in the hall, and he said something I'll never forget. He said, "Man, you think you're better than us, don't you? Well, you're not. Look around here. In 2 months, you're going to be just like us. They're going to treat you just like they treat us." I had no idea what he was talking about. But see, this young man, he was wise beyond his years. After that interaction, I began to pay more attention to what was going on around me. I started to notice the real difference between Cass Tech and Denby. See, at Cass, they told us weekly that we were second to none, the absolute best that Detroit has to offer. Conversations involve words like plan, competition, professional. At Denby, there was none of that second to none talk. Conversations involve words like struggle, survival, job. There was a difference in the opportunities too. At Cass, you could be whatever you wanted to be. One of my good friends was an honor student, a cheerleader, a gymnast, a basketball player, and a volleyball player. And she played like 2 of her instruments, you know? There were hundreds of other people at Cass, just like my friend. At Denby, there was a small group of students, maybe 15 per class, that could claim to have anywhere near that level of extracurricular involvement. I left the school where scarcity wasn't a major concern to attend one where everything was scarce, the opportunities, the resources, and the support for students. At Denby, I watched teachers struggle every single day to motivate students to believe in themselves. I watched teachers come in with enthusiasm and great lessons fail every single day. In my opinion, most days at Denby, our teachers left exhausted and confused by what they'd seen. At the same time, I started to notice that my new peers were much more complicated than I thought. Some of them stole, some of them fought, some of them had a complete lack of respect for any form of authority. Being naturally curious, I would ask my friends why they behaved this way. The answers I received were demoralizing. Some of them told me that they stole because they had nothing when they went home, and that they stole things like supplies and food because they were embarrassed that their parents couldn't give them those things. Some of them fought because they wanted respect, respect from their peers, respect from their teachers, respect from authority. And they didn't respect authority because they felt cheated, cheated by the criminal justice system, as almost all of us had had someone close in our lives that had been in prison. Cheated by the police, who failed to protect our communities and treated us like we were a part of the problem before any of us knew what a family was. Cheated by our schools, schools that were overcrowded, understaffed, and undersupplied. I thought more about my friends' words. I was just like them. After a while, I began to think it was my job to help my peers. When one of them was in trouble, I would speak up on their behalf. If one of them didn't have a place to stay, my mother let them stay with us. If they didn't have food at home, they could eat with us. When one of them got into a conflict in the neighborhood, my twin brother and I would call around as fast as we could to try to resolve the dispute before someone was hurt. See, helping my friends became like a job for me. And honestly, I started to care more about this job than I did school. Eventually, I started to love my new school. I wanted to show people that there was no such thing as a prototypical student. I wanted to show people that wanting to succeed in life didn't mean that I had to treat my friends like they were beneath me. I wanted to show people that I wanted to better my community didn't mean I had to hate it or the people that lived in it. I never tried to isolate myself from my friends or my neighborhood. But there was a problem with this mentality. The numbers didn't support it. In Detroit, at the time I was graduating from high school, only 20% of black males were receiving a high school diploma on time. It was estimated that 50% of black males would have some interaction with the criminal justice system by the time they reached adulthood. And homicide rates were more than 13 times the national average. Death or incarceration was more than a possibility, just from interacting with my friends. And we saw many young people be killed and taken away in police cars, never to return. By the time I left Indy, I understood my friends a little bit more. Their fears, their frustration, their hopelessness. With all this in mind, my twin brother and I decided to sit down and create a plan for ourselves. Our plan was to first attend Wayne State University here in Detroit because we loved home. Second, graduate from Wayne State with at least a 3.5. And third, attend law school. See, by that point, we decided that basketball wasn't a realistic dream for us. It was time to find a new dream. And we'd become interested in a career in law from an essay contest that we won our junior year. My friend who told me that I'd be just like them will later say that there was no way 2 boys from our neighborhood would grow up and become lawyers. The numbers didn't support it. And definitely not 2 twin boys growing up in the same house from our neighborhood. There was absolutely no way. You see, he was a wise young man, and the world had taught him better. And honestly, there were days when I didn't believe I could achieve my goals. One Friday, during my senior year, I was randomly harassed and beaten by public safety officers at school. I had never seen these officers before. One of them just jumped out of his car, grabbed me from behind, and began banging my head on the back of the police car. To this day, I don't know why those officers chose me, but I remember my friend's words. See, this was part of the experience of being treated just like them. The numbers, they don't lie. Many of my friends from Denby have died and become victims of the criminal justice system. Most of my friends from Cass Tech have at least one college degree. There's a small group of us from Denby that have our college degrees. My 29, we learned the hard way. The numbers, they don't lie. I came to Wayne State with the duality that I developed in high school. On the one end, I was an ambitious student that entered Cass Tech in the 9th grade. But on the other end, I was a neighborhood kid who felt the fears and frustration of my peers at Denby. This made Wayne State tough. But see, Wayne State is a great university. And my brother and I developed into strong student leaders here. And eventually, we made relationships with people that would change our lives. People like Professor Brad Roth from Wayne State Law School and Political Science Department, who first made my brother and I realize that we did have the potential to attend one of the best law schools in the country. People like Professor David Goldberg in the African Studies Department, who taught us about Detroit history and about Africa, played the parts that I played at. This is exciting to me. I wanted to go back and show those students that they did have the potential to succeed in life, if they could be more. In my classroom, we weren't going to talk about failure and disappointment. I wanted to talk about hope, about optimism, about planning, about reflection, about hard work. To do this, I didn't want to do it with words. I wanted to do it with action. So I explained to my students how tough it was to go from a Denby to a Wayne State University. I explained to them about the long study nights. But see, I had an opportunity with the LSAT to show them what hard work looked like. So my study schedule was on my wall in my classroom, and my students knew my test day. They saw me every step of the way, prepare for the test and prepare for class every single day. See, this was hard work. I remember when I came into the classroom and told my students that I had scored well enough to potentially attend one of the best law schools in the country. My students were more excited than me. We celebrated together. Somewhere along the way, I realized my journey wasn't just my journey anymore. It was our journey. My students have become a part of my process. Students who have underachieved as their entire lives began coming to me talking about resumes and letters of recommendation so they can get jobs and other opportunities. One of my brightest students had been affiliated with a local gang for several years of his life. He'd come to me his senior year and told me that I inspired him to leave that life and pursue a college degree. He said that I showed him that people from our area could do more and that he wasn't limited by his circumstance. Near the end of my teaching experience, I received an offer to become an intern in one of the world's best law firms. I was conflicted. On the one hand, I wanted to stay in Detroit and help my first group of students prepare for the senior year. On the other hand, this internship to get my legal career off to an amazing start. I received the offer on my lunch break. The next class period, one of my students, the quarterback on the football team, he knew me well enough that he could see the excitement on my face. And so he asked, "Mr. Biggs, you just received some really good news, didn't you?" I laughed, and then I told them all about the internship opportunity. Now, one of my students asked me what I was going to do. Before I could say anything, the quarterback spoke up. "You gotta go. You cannot stay here, Biggs. If you don't go, what does it say about the rest of us? See, you show all of us that we can live our dreams, that it's possible." At that moment, the student had become the teacher. Now, when I don't have my face crammed in the law books, I'm on the phone. I'm on the phone with students telling me how their resume we worked on helped them get their first job. On the phone with students telling me about their first semester of college. On the phone telling me about how that opportunity that they received changed. I received the offer on my lunch break. The next class period, one of my students, the quarterback on the football team, he knew me well enough that he could see the excitement on my face. And so he asked, "Mr. Biggs, you just received some really good news, didn't you?" I laughed, and then I told them all about the internship opportunity. Now, one of my students asked me what I was going to do. Before I could say anything, the quarterback spoke up. "You gotta go. You cannot stay here, Biggs. If you don't go, what does it say about the rest of us? See, you show all of us that we can live our dreams, that it's possible." At that moment, the student had become the teacher. Now, when I don't have my face crammed in the law books, I'm on the phone. I'm on the phone with students telling me how their resume we worked on helped them get their first job. On the phone with students telling me about their first semester of college. On the phone telling me about how that opportunity that they received changed their lives, and that they got that opportunity from the advice that I had given them. See, now I'm an AnBryce Scholar at NYU School of Law, and I don't have much time. But I invest my time and energy in those students because they are worth it. Conversations about investment in public education are growing, and they're only going to continue in the future. I've shared my story here with you today to make one point. Don't forget about the students that are always left behind. The students that haven't been deemed the gifted and talented. The students that don't attend the specialized high school or the well-funded charter. The students that struggle to find places to eat, sleep, and live every single day of their lives. The students who live in our most dangerous and impoverished communities. See, those investments, they won't fit traditional models. There won't be the quarterly or yearly return on investment that can be objectively measured. But there will be growth. There'll be growth in those students' self-efficacy. Growth in the opportunities that they receive. Growth in their capacity to understand that there are people in the world who do care about their success and are willing to make sacrifices to see them succeed. And I'm not here to lie to you. I'm not going to say it's going to be all pretty. Some of those students will fail. Some of them will even be killed trying to do what they believe is right. But focusing on the negative results misses the point. We can't reverse the negative effects of life in underserved communities without sustained, committed effort. And there are people in organizations that choose to make those investments of time, money, and resources despite those risks. People like Frank McGee of the Neighborhood Services Organization, who I saw personally be fearless in his work in the Osborne community, helping students become advocates against substance abuse and gun violence. People like Otis Bellinger, who goes to Detroit schools teaching lessons in moral responsibility. Organizations like Networking Out, who work with students to fight obesity and to promote healthy lifestyles. Women like Rhonda Walker, whose foundation helps empower young girls to become future leaders in society. People like Sia Taylor in the Real Life 101 Scholarship Program, a program that provides scholarship, mentor, and other resources for at-risk youth. There are thousands of other organizations in this fight, but more help is needed. Famous rapper Tupac Shakur once said, "We wouldn't ask why the roads that grew from concrete had damaged rose petals. We would all celebrate his tenacity. We would be in awe of his endurance and his perseverance." See, those students I'm talking about today, they are those roses. Many of them grew up in environments that make their success virtually impossible. But they can succeed